Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. Excuse me there. And this is your closing bell for Friday, February 10th, 2023. The return of a good friend, a colleague, Zayd Hussein, talking some UFC. I think it's UFC 280, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the number that we're at. The return of Conor McGregor coming soon. I saw minus 110, both sides there. We'll get into that. We'll wrap up maybe with his thoughts on, I guess there's a football game Sunday around 6:30. I guess, I don't know, but I'm so super stoked to have it. And I'm going to announce right now, starting on Fridays at 2:30, Zayd and I will be here talking UFC, talking college hoops, whatever's hot, we're talking about it. So make sure you mark your calendars for that. But without further ado, let's bring him on. The return of Zayd Hussein.
What's going on, Jeff? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Great, man. It's great to be back and to bring picks for UFC 284 and the return of Conor McGregor coming soon, like you mentioned. And there's a lot of excitement, a lot of fights, and I'm ready to get into it.
See, I told you I'm fat-fingered. I put 280 and I was only 4 off. Maybe 280 stuck in the head because I think that's probably the last card you and I had queued up to talk about him. There was a little accident or incident. I'm glad all is well now. So, but we're back live for 284.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And last time I was on here, we discussed Islam Makhachev, who's main eventing this fight card and against the pound for pound number one fighter, Alexander Volkanovski. Makhachev was able to beat Oliveira convincingly. I remember I came on here and we discussed how Makhachev was going to be able to use his wrestling and submit Oliveira. And he did that. And now he faces Alexander Volkanovski, the pound for pound number one fighter in the world, who's moving up from featherweight to lightweight, 145 to 155 pounds. A lot of people think, oh, it's just 10 pounds, but don't realize when it comes to fighting, you know, this is a huge step up in weight and in height and in reach and overall strength. So this is a fight, the main event, we could get right into it as my best bet, where I have 3 bets for this card. And my main best bet for the card is Islam Makhachev by submission. When you look at Makhachev's past, he's been able to submit 4 of his last 5 opponents. The one that he hasn't submitted being Bobby Green, where he finished him via TKO on the ground. Makhachev has been able to just maul every single opponent he's fought. We saw him fight Charles Oliveira. Oliveira, known for one of the best ground games in the UFC, his jiu-jitsu, his fighting off of his back. It did not matter. Makhachev's sambo and wrestling, he used it to get him to the ground. He jumped arm triangle and was able to submit him in the second round. When you look at the caliber of fighters that Makhachev has fought, overall, in the beginning, people weren't impressed, but now there's no denying that he is one of the greatest fighters in the octagon in the UFC today. And rightfully so, ranked as number 2 pound for pound. This is a matchup Alexander Volkanovski takes, you know, kind of stepping out of his comfort zone. He's beaten almost everybody at 145. He beat Max Holloway again in the trilogy. And now he steps up looking for something new and you know, a new challenge. And it's hats off to Alexander Volkanovski to be able to do this. Not a lot of people have the guts to step up in competition and to take on a tougher fight. We saw Israel Adesanya do it against Jan Blachowicz. He didn't have success. Very few people have had success stepping up. Really, only Daniel Cormier and Conor McGregor have been able to do it with a lot of success. And then DC obviously dropping his other fights. But this is a matchup that does not favor Volkanovski at all. When you look at what Makhachev has been able to do, Makhachev has been able to take every fighter down. He's been able to use his strength and his reach to pressure fighters against the cage and take them down and absolutely maul them. And I think right now, Volkanovski, he's had trouble against Brian Ortega. He's had trouble against Chad Mendes, especially with Ortega. I mean, he almost got triangled and then he almost got guillotined and he's struggling on the ground. And Makhachev by submission right now is plus 155. Overall, he's plus he's minus 400 or 420, if that's correct on FanDuel. And his path to victory here is going to be submission. He's not going to look to stand with Volkanovski at all. Volkanovski's only edge or chance is in the stand-up game, but that's not going to happen here. We're going to see him play to the way he wants to fight. He's going to look to pressure him. He's going to look to take him down, and he's going to look to finish his fight. I think he gets it done in the second or third round. Volkanovski's been able to stand up against wrestlers in the past, but no one near the level of wrestling and sambo that Islam Makhachev has. So I think if he goes to jump up, he will expose his neck, expose the arm, and he'll get finished via submission ultimately.
It's funny because I'm looking at my opening numbers right now. I had a 335 with a plus 251. There's some crazy 410 numbers at Bet Online. I'll use Circa here. Jeffrey and Matt got minus 370 with a plus 305. Under over 2.5, juiced over minus 65 cents.
Wow, yeah, that line for the over under, the juice moved quite a bit, I would say. I think Makhachev does get this down in between the second and third round. I think he finishes him in the second or third. If I had to make my full prediction, I would say a second round submission, late second. This is a fight where even though Volkanovski has shown he's so great, the level that Makhachev has is something that Volkanovski has never seen. And he doesn't really have a path to victory here. Volkanovski doesn't have the knockout power. He's fought Holloway. He's fought all these guys. If you look at his last couple fights, they've all been mostly decisions, And I think the one stoppage being against a Korean Zombie where he just beat him up for 4 or 5 rounds. But overall, he doesn't have the knockout power to threaten Makhachev. Makhachev's going to be able to pressure him, take him down, and end this fight. I think it's going to be relatively easy, to be honest with you. And that's my best bet for the UFC 284 card, being Makhachev by submission. You could get it some spots at plus 155. I locked it in at plus 165 on Barstool Sportsbook. But, line shop, and you could get the best line there.
All right, that's number one. Number two,
we move to one of my bigger underdog plays of the card, Randy Brown. Randy Brown versus Jack Della Maddalena. This is a very interesting fight to me. Randy Brown is placed at around plus 265, I think, if that's accurate. I don't know if it moved. Brown, he's going to come into this fight. He has the height advantage. He has the reach advantage. He has the experience advantage. I think he's fought overall the tougher competition. And Jack Della, while he's looked very good in his fights in the UFC, he hasn't fought in the caliber of fighters that Randy Brown has fought. It's easy to look good when you're fighting guys that don't have the experience that they should have in the octagon. He's fought, for example, in Pete Rodriguez, who was making his UFC debut. He's fought guys like Ramazan Emeev and Danny Roberts. Those are his 3 wins in the UFC. These guys are not high-level fighters in the caliber of fighters that Randy Brown has fought. Randy Brown has been in there with the likes of Vicente Luque, Bilal Muhammad. He's just beaten Francisco Trinaldo. He's beaten Cowboy Oliveira. He's fought in very, very tough competition. And Jack Della on the regional scene, he's shown his lack of grappling and his lack of wrestling. And I think Randy Brown does have the abilities to take advantage of that. And we've seen Randy Brown in the past with submissions against Cowboy Oliveira, and he's had 5 submissions total in his UFC career. I think him right now sitting at plus 1,300 to win this fight by submission is a very, very good long shot play. This is something that you sprinkle a couple dollars on. And I like him at plus 265. I think he could edge out a decision easily. He has great boxing. He has great stand-up striking. He's going to have the reach, the height, and the overall experience in this fight. And I like him by sub, but I also think he could get it done via decision with his boxing. He's a fighter that I feel like is being disrespected coming into this fight. This is a line where I price closer to pick him, quite frankly.
and if you line shop and they're at the in Vegas on Fremont Street, you can go to Circa right now and get that at plus 280.
Yes. Always make sure to line shop, people. It's the most important thing when it comes to betting. People ask me, okay, are you making good bets? Even if you're losing these bets, as long as you're making a good bet and you're line shopping, you're getting the best line, at the end of the day, you're going to come out ahead. So it's just where if you could get a plus 280 instead of a plus 265 or a plus 270, it adds up over time. At the end of the day, you're betting minus 110 on most things. You got to find any value that you possibly can.
And your third play.
And the third and final play for UFC 284, we're looking at the co-main event, Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett. Yair Rodriguez sitting right now, I think about minus 165 to minus 170, if I'm right. Josh Emmett around plus 145 on a comeback. This is a very interesting fight to me. You know, Yair Rodriguez, he fought Brian Ortega most recently. Ortega got injured in that fight right away, so we didn't really get to see too much. But Rodriguez, you know, against Max Holloway, he had an absolute war. He showed his striking ability. I think, me personally, when you rank the top featherweights in the division, you look at Volkanovski as one. I would put Holloway there at number 2, and then right under that is Yair Rodriguez. His kickboxing is some of the best in the UFC. And then you look at the fighter he's fighting in Josh Emmett, who's turning 38, has horrible injuries in the past. There's a lot of speculation that he's actually coming into this fight hurt based on the line movement of the fight. He's had ACL problems, ACL tears. He's a power striker that has an overhand right. He's not gonna kick you. He's not gonna be a guy that has a threat of wrestling. He's gonna look to stand and he's gonna look to throw hard. And I think against a guy like Yair Rodriguez, his striking and the way he's able to use his kicks and keep his distance is I think he's going to be able to dance circles around Josh Emmett, to be honest with you. And the price at minus 165 is about what I would want to bet at. If it gets to minus 180, minus 190, I would pass. But I think he should be priced around minus 180, minus 190. So getting Yair Rodriguez at minus 165, even a possible KO odds, I'm not sure what they are right now. I know that they've been changing. But Yair Rodriguez by KO is worth a look, and laying the minus 165 is also worth a bet, in my opinion.
I had an opening number of 160 and under over a 4.5 over minus 225. So I guess they think that this one's got a good shot at going the distance. I'm seeing some 175s as we speak. They must be listening to you on this one at the Circa, currently minus 185 at the Circa.
Yeah, definitely. And that line's kind of been all over the place. You know, I saw it hovering around minus 150, I think maybe a week and a half ago. And now it's minus 165, minus 170, minus 180. It's just going up and up and up because Yair Rodriguez is, I think, the more durable fighter here. I think he's the better striker. And, you know, he's been in wars against the Korean Zombie and Max Holloway. And I don't think Josh Emmett, turning 38 years old, I think this is going to be one of his last fights. He may retire after this fight, you know. Overall, he's just had too many injuries in his career. He's more of a one-dimensional fighter, and I see a lot of ways Yair Rodriguez could present problems to Josh Emmett in this fight, and that's why I favor him going forward.
I have never considered myself the UFC expert. I enjoy when you come on. I enjoy listening to people with knowledge about all these fighters, on their styles, everything about it. The one name I do know is Conor McGregor. Now, he has not been in the octagon, I guess, for a while. I remember him boxing Mayweather.
Yeah.
And then maybe he got excited / jealous with Mr. Paul making all this money and yada, yada, yada. Now in comes earlier this week or last week, the return of Conor McGregor. Again, I saw it minus 110, that who he's fighting slips my mind. Give me A, what this does for the UFC. B, can you please explain to me why he's coming back?
Yeah, 100%. And he's fighting Michael Chandler. They're going to be fighting after the Ultimate Fighter, which the Ultimate Fighter is obviously, as you know, the reason, you know, the UFC started. The Ultimate Fighters, the show that started it all. They're going to bring on this season. They're going to do something a little different, which I found very exciting, is they're going to bring UFC vets against younger competition. So they're going to have like a veterans and a guy coaching, you know, the younger guys. So overall, that's something that's going to increase ratings for the UFC. It's huge. Anytime Conor McGregor's back and he's doing something for the UFC and any type of media, it's huge. It gets views, it gets clicks, you know? And I think when you look at this fight, it was opened up perfectly, in my opinion. Minus 110 both ways. We've seen Michael Chandler just come out of a war against Dustin Poirier. You know, I think Michael Chandler is one of the most talented fighters in the roster. Just his fight IQ is not there compared to other guys that are at the top of the division. When you look at Michael Chandler, he's a guy that likes to brawl and likes to just leave it all out there, as opposed to, you know, go out there and try to fight strategically and win. I think there's fights, even the most recent fight against Dustin Poirier, if he would just channel that wrestling as much as he possibly can to get the victory, he'd rather sit out there and slug. And I think that's his mistake, you know, most of the times going forward. When you look at Conor McGregor, coming off the broken leg, you know, you don't know how committed he is. Obviously, we've seen in his last 2 Dustin Poirier fights. McGregor's a guy that you never know what you're going to get with him. And I think at this point in his career, he's made so much money and he has his proper 12 and he has so many other things going on. He's shooting movies and he's doing so many different things where you don't know how committed he is. I think this is a fight where it's perfectly matched up. I think if McGregor comes in motivated and he comes in training on shape, in shape, and I think he will be because of the Ultimate Fighter and being around the camp and being around the fight game, I think Conor McGregor should be the favorite. He's had success against shorter fighters. He's going to have the reach coming into this fight. He has the power. Chandler's a guy that throws hooks, looping hooks, kind of similar to Jose Aldo, throwing side right hooks, left hooks. He just comes forward and marches forward. I think if he does that against McGregor, he will get clipped. I think in the grappling department, Michael Chandler is going to have a huge, huge, huge advantage. And it's just a question of if he's going to want to brawl with him or if he's going to take him down and want to fight to win. And I personally think he's going to end up brawling with him. He's a guy that's a crowd pleaser as opposed to more of winning the fight. He wants to please the crowd. And I think at minus 110, you look to see how the line moves and you look to see the buildup of the fight, and then you make your decision from there. But I think if you're looking at it from a perspective of if Chandler wants to win this fight, he can use his wrestling to do it. And I think that that's a good path to victory for him.
So understanding the where Conor goes once he's fighting someone and where the market takes him, if you were Conor, whenever he fights, I'm taking Conor, wouldn't you say to buy now at minus 110? This is going to go to minus 140, 50, 60 or whatever. Or is there a chance that the shops come and say, not so quick, we've seen this before, and Conor actually could, come time to close here, could he actually be an underdog?
Yes, and I think he will be the underdog when it comes time to close. Honestly, you will see obviously all the fans and the support of the millions of people that Conor McGregor has backing him. But I think, like you said, you mentioned the sharp side. If they could get Michael Chandler at plus money in this spot, I think they're going to take it. McGregor's been out of action for so long, and it's not like he's had like where he tore something or he broke his whole leg. The guy's coming back from a full broken leg, and it was snapped clean off. You don't know how these guys are going to return and what they're feeling mentally when they step in the cage. Oh, can I throw this kick? Should I be afraid of it being hurt? And overall, I think the sharps, if they could get Chandler at plus money, they're going to dive on it. I think, me personally, this line moves towards Chandler. I think the sharps are going to come in hot and heavy on him. And if Chandler shows that he's going to demonstrate the wrestling and the grappling edge that he has in this fight, this should be an easy win for him. Conor McGregor's kryptonite is wrestling, and people have been able to wrestle against him and have success against him. Dustin Poirier in the first fight, he was able to take him down. We obviously saw what happened with Khabib. He just mauled him for 4 rounds. Overall, this is a fight where if Chandler wants to win the right way, he can do it. And I think if this line gets out of line where it moves towards McGregor, people are going to jump on the Chandler side right away.
I'm going to throw one name before we go to the Super Bowl here and wrap up. I haven't heard a peep. I think, if I remember correctly, the trilogy is set. What's going on with Amanda Nunes?
So honestly, there's a lot of chatter back and forth. Amanda Nunes, she doesn't want the trilogy fight, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to end up giving the trilogy fight to Juliana Pena. But honestly, we're just waiting for more information to come out. Something that does interest me here is John Jones making his return, which is one of the biggest, fights coming up. John Jones versus Ciryl Gane. This is a fight where John Jones opened offshore at around plus 150 to plus 160. And that lasted, Jeff, I want to say about 25, 30 minutes. It got all the way down to pick 'em. And I jumped on John Jones at even money, and now he's sitting at minus 140 across all sports books, literally FanDuel, DraftKings, everywhere. You can't get him under minus 140. John Jones, people forget, yes, he has the layoff. Yes, he's moving up in weight. Yes, Ciryl Gane's a great striker. John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. He has, obviously there's steroid allegations and things like that, but he's the most skilled fighter there is. And he's coming into this fight. He put on the weight while he's not just jumping up to heavyweight. He's been training for the last year and a half, 2 years, now training alongside Henry Cejudo and Fight Ready team. He's moving camp to camp, jumping to different teams, getting different looks. He's coming into this fight as the best fighter in the world. He's going to have a grappling edge in this fight, and I think he's going to be able to take Ciryl Gane down, and he has a great path to victory here. I think he moves to minus 160, minus 170 before fight night. This line's just going to keep moving and moving and moving. No money's going to come on the Gane side.
So if you want in now, even though you missed the plus 150 or 60.
Yes. You could still take it, and I guarantee you he's going to close around minus 160. He went from plus 160 to all the way now minus 140. The money's going to keep coming in. This is John Jones. People forget that this is the greatest fighter of all time. This is a guy who's never lost inside the octagon. He's dismantled every single opponent. He knows how to win. He's battle tested, and he has so many different ways to win a fight.
Well, it wouldn't be fair to give you a few minutes to talk Super Bowl. We had Tyler Wyatt on earlier. He was one of the 25 that was able to get Philly plus 2.5 when Circa opened it. Right now at South Point, Philly is now -2 with a 51. 1.5 across the Vegas Strip right now. Where are you putting your money? What do you like and why?
Okay, so like you mentioned, it opened up at plus 2.5 on the Philly side. KC came into this favored, and I think when you look at the competition KC's faced, arguably to me, the AFC Championship was the Super Bowl. I think Cincinnati and KC are the two best teams in football. And, who did Philly beat to come here? They beat the Giants, who, hats off to Brian Daboll. He won Coach of the Year. What he did with that team was unbelievable. But you beat the Giants, and then you beat San Fran, who Brock Purdy gets injured 2 minutes into the game. They're on Christian McCaffrey was about to play quarterback for them, So it's like, how do you judge the Eagles? I think you take KC, with the better quarterback, the team with more experience, the better coaching. In my opinion, I think Andy Reid's the best in the world out there at coaching. And now he's going to have Juju Smith-Schuster back. He's going to have his wide receivers back. It's remarkable that they were even able to beat Cincinnati with literally their whole entire wide receiver core being out. Now you bring back these weapons, and overall, I think this is a game. I like the over. I love the over. 50.5 at some spots, 51 in other spots. I love KC here. I'm taking KC in the over. I think this game will be a high-scoring affair. Some props I want to lay out that I've seen a lot of sharp money coming on, and I'll just throw this out here. I'll read them off one by one. We have under 4.5 rushing attempts for Kenneth Gainwell. We have, Jerick McKinnon under 8.5 on his longest rushing attempt. We have Isaiah Pacheco over 14.5 receiving yards. And, some of these lines have moved already. And we have the over 51. We have under 3.5 field goals made on the game, under 2.5. I like the latter, taking those. We have over 24.5 in the first half. We have over 58.5 rushing yards for Miles Sanders. These are just some of the plays I'm throwing out there. Over 10.5 team total for the Chiefs of the first half. I like all these plays, and a lot of them have been moved. I think Miles Sanders now sitting at 61.5 rushing yards. I think he opened at 54.5. Miles Sanders should have a lot of success in this game. These offenses are both very talented, and I don't see the defenses being able to stop them. I think both offenses execute extremely well. They could do it through any scenario, through any pressure, and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are some of the best quarterbacks out there. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, and it's going to be a lot of points, which usually we don't see in the Super Bowl. We see a lot of Super Bowl unders. I'm always the under guy for the Super Bowl. The public always comes in on the over, but I love the over here in the spot, and I like KC.
Final score and MVP.
Final score, I want to say 34-28, Patrick Mahomes MVP, and Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, we got it jotted down. The one and only Zayd Hussein at Zayd_Hussein, who will be back with us every Friday at 2:30 Eastern time. We'll be talking UFC when there are cards. We'll be talking college hoops as we get ready for conference championship, March Madness. We're going to NBA playoffs. You name it, we got it here. Always a pleasure. Glad you're back, sir.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be on, man. Thank you.
Everyone stay in exactly 3:45, 4:45 actually. We moved it up 15 minutes. Off with the Helmets with Brady Tinker, his weekly show live from Dallas, talking Cowboys. Other than that, come follow me at EC Sports Investor, one and only Zayd Hussein at Zayd_Hussein. And we'll be back real soon at the ECSI Media Group.